Hey there, this is episode 4 of the Balanced 5 podcast. Track your expenses, financial security step 1. Welcome to the Balanced 5 podcast, where we talk about balancing intentional debt payoff, saving money, and actually living your life. I'm your host, Raylia, small business owner, wife, girl mom, nonprofit co-founder, and money nerd. This is an audio version of the Balanced 5 blog because I know how hard it is to find time to sit down and read literally anything. Instead, you can get quick bits of money knowledge on the go. I want to help you learn to control your money instead of letting your money control you. Let's get started. Today, we're talking about financial security step number 1 and why tracking your expenses is important for understanding your financial past and changing your financial future. So this is step 1 of the 10 steps of the financial security steps. And this is a process that I created, and it is what my family is following in our debt payoff journey and our eventual goal of financial security. So financial security is a lot more attainable than financial independence because with financial security, you are still working. You are just more secure. If you're interested in hearing more about financial security, go back and listen to episode 1 of the podcast. That will be linked in the show notes too, just to help you out there. So let's get started on step 1. Anyone can get their finances under control with enough time, effort, and direction. It's not easy to know how to begin, though. I recommend starting in the past and tracking your expenses. Find a method that works for you, categorize the transactions for the last 3 months, and look at the category totals. This is where you're starting what you need to change. Be intentional in your spending from this day forward. Commit yourself now to changing your financial future. It's also important to know that the financial security steps are created as basically a complement to Dave Ramsey's baby steps. So those steps are great, mostly. There are some things I would change, but I think they're just too broad overall and not really helpful for people that are just getting started out. That's why I created the financial security steps. These are the steps that will help you get started. First, you need to decide how to track your expenses. There are many ways to track your expenses and eventually use that information to create a budget. You can use a website with an associated app, an Excel spreadsheet, or pen and paper. Many financial bloggers provide a download to help with either expense tracking, or budgeting. I'm not going to reinvent the wheel though, so you can just Google to find a download that works best for you and the way that you think about money. There are 3 main software apps that I have personally tried out. So I'll just go over those. And there are other options beyond these. These are just the ones that I've tried out. First up is Mint. It is a great software for tracking expenses. The app works pretty seamlessly with the website, and you can import bank accounts, debts, and investment accounts. You can also budget and get reminders all within the app. The best part about Mint is that it's free, and that even includes syncing to your online accounts. I don't really love the budgeting setup though, so I personally no longer use Mint. Next up is You Need a Budget, or YNAB. So this is a zero-based budgeting software, which means that every dollar is, quote, given a job. You budget all of your income to a specific category rather than saving or spending whatever is left over after the bills are paid. The website also has a lot of education opportunities. So I've tried YNAB and I found it too complex for me. I need something easy and quick since I usually track expenses while supervising my kids or feeding them lunch. You can get a free trial for YNAB, but then you have to either pay monthly or annually, so it's not free long term. The third option is Every Dollar. Every Dollar is Dave Ramsey's zero-based budgeting app. The concept is pretty much the same as YNAB, but it was easier for me to understand and navigate, and I am pretty tech savvy. Well, I like to think that at least. I like the app and the website both, plus they tie to another product called Baby Steps, which I'm using to track our debt payoff. This would help you throughout the whole Ramsey Baby Step program. The basic version is free, but you do have to pay if you want your transactions to automatically import. If you do work for a larger corporation, check if they offer the employee benefit of a Ramsey Plus subscription. This gives you access to the paid version of Every Dollar and all of the financial peace education that's out there. So we actually don't pay for our subscription because this is a benefit offered by my husband's employer. A more old school option is a spreadsheet or a printable. So there is an article on the balance, which I will link to in the show notes, and it lists many spreadsheet options for expense tracking. If this is the route you want to take, look through them and see what works best for you or what makes sense to you. Ashley over at Budgets Made Easy also offers a pretty hardcore spreadsheet as well as a budget planner. You can also do a Google search and you'll get tons of options. Just choose what works best for you. One thing to know about spreadsheets is that you need to make sure that you are dedicated enough to actually go in and update the spreadsheets frequently. You're not going to keep up with this if you're inputting data from, the last month. That's just too overwhelming and you're going to stop. So choose what works best with your lifestyle and how much time you actually have to devote to your finances. I use Every Dollar because I want to make budgeting and expense tracking as easy as possible so I stay current on it. If I wait a month or two to track expenses, we get off track, or I get lazy about tracking and just don't do it. Neither of those scenarios help our financial situation. I like that Every Dollar imports the transactions for me, so I don't have to enter everything myself. It's most important that you just understand how you think and honestly how lazy you're going to be about it. I chose Every Dollar because I want to be as lazy as possible about tracking our expenses so I can focus on other things. This episode is brought to you by the Bill Balancing Bootcamp. Are you ready to find the easiest way to balance your monthly bills and stop waiting for your next paycheck? The Bill Balancing Bootcamp is the course that will help you change your finances in a day. Does this sound familiar? You know you should pay off debt and save each month, but you just don't know where to start. This course walks you through every step needed to balance your monthly bills, get a month ahead on those bills, and simplify your money. If you are a busy person with debt or little savings, or if you just want to change your financial future, this is an opportunity that I promise you will not want to miss. When you enroll in the Bill Balancing Bootcamp, you will receive access to over 20 pages of instruction, 8 educational videos, 6 printable worksheets, and a bonus 30-day challenge tracker download. All of that will teach you how to budget for your bills and ease into budgeting for everything else. You'll get a handle on those basic finances. Enroll today by going to balancedfi.com/BBB. Next, you need to decide what to track. Answer these questions when deciding the level of detail you want to track. All of the apps I mentioned have predetermined categories, but you need to decide how detailed you want to be. Do you want to track utilities or water, electricity, trash, etc. as separate categories? What does groceries include? Is it just food, household and personal care items, diapers, pet food? Are all medical expenses tracked together? Do you want a category for each person? Do you want to split out pharmacy, doctor visits, and dental expenses? And are there certain things you want to track separately? For example, we budget my husband's bowling league fees as a separate line item because the league doesn't run for the entire year. That helps us budget more accurately when league is running. So it's going to be hard to get really detailed looking back at past transactions, and that's okay. It is okay to lump Walmart and Costco into groceries for now. When you're tracking in real time, you may choose to split your shampoo into a different category, but for now, just get the step done. Put everything into groceries and move on. So looking back helps you move forward. I want you to start by tracking your old transactions rather than tracking new purchases as you go. People tend to change their behaviors when they're paying attention, which would give you an inaccurate picture of your spending. You want to see what you're really spending money on, not what you think you should be spending money on. It's also really motivating to see how far you've come. One day, you'll look back at this exercise and be amazed at how your spending habits have changed. I think you'll spend less on eating out, less on debt payments, and more on the things that really matter to you. You will have a large emergency fund, retirement savings, and a sense of peace. So just for an example, when I went through and tracked out the previous 3 months' expenses before we really got intentional about our finances, there was 1 month where we spent $700 on eating out, which is crazy because there are two adults in our family. At that point, we had a 5-year-old and a 1-year-old. Actually, my older daughter was still 4. So that is a crazy amount of money to spend on eating out. I mean, obviously this was pre-COVID, but how do we spend that much money? I honestly have no idea. It doesn't make sense. Since we've been more intentional with our spending, we've cut that down to some months it's just $0. Sometimes we do spend a couple hundred on takeout now. And we have also decreased our grocery spending. 1 month before we were paying attention, we spent $1,200 on groceries for 4 people. And that includes a baby who was eating little bits of grown-up food and a lot of baby food. So obviously baby food's expensive, formula's expensive, and that was included in that total, but not that expensive. We were being unintentional. We were wasting food, leftovers. I wasn't meal planning, which has made a huge improvement in our grocery spending. But I never would have realized how much money we were wasting if I didn't track it. It didn't feel like we were spending that much on things that didn't really matter. So this step should only take you a few hours. Try to get it done soon. Carve out some time after the kids are in bed or on the weekend, and then move on to step 2 of the financial security steps. And that will be a future podcast episode, obviously. You're going to use this information to create a budget when you get to step 6. Tracking will also help you identify annual or monthly expenses, which will be useful in step 3. And finally, this step 1, gives you a starting place for laying out your debts based on the payments you're making now for step 4. Continue to track your expenses too. Make tracking your expenses part of your daily or weekly routine. So I like to track my expenses every day during lunch. I'm already sitting down and have access to my phone while I'm feeding my kids. So it's easy to track the few transactions that are posted to my accounts since the day before. If you stay on top of tracking, it will literally just take a few minutes per day, and it'll provide you with invaluable information. Even after you know how much to pay on your debts or you have made a budget, you need, emphasis on that, you need to continue to track expenses to make sure you're following your plan. You can change your purchasing behavior if you have spent 75% of your grocery budget by the 15th of the month. You can, plan on cheaper meals. You can do a pantry challenge. Go back and listen to episode 3 if you want to learn about a 30-day challenge. But you can adjust your behavior and your spending throughout the month to make sure that you're on track with your goals. The financial security steps build upon one another, and you've just taken the first step. Thank you for listening to this episode. If you enjoy the Balance Fi podcast, I'd be so grateful if you left us a review on iTunes or told a friend. As always, you can head to balancedfi.com to connect with me and stay in touch. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, and Twitter at balancedfi. Until next time, stay intentional and look for balance.